Dude, I have a question for you.
What's up?
All right, if you were a speaker, would you consider yourself more the tweeter or the woofer?
I think I would be a woofer because I'm a big fan of low and deep. Hello and welcome again to the darkened room of music conversation. I'm Chris.
And I'm Darren.
Today we're going to pick our favorite albums.
Awesome.
Favorite albums of all time. These are ones that, doesn't necessarily coincide with our favorite artist.
Exactly.
It just happens to be an album that we think is a masterpiece beginning to end. We always listen to the entire thing.
Right.
And it's like we can't. It's an album you just can't stop. You can't.
Exactly.
You can't press pause. You can't. Press stop.
They would call these like desert island discs back in the day.
Yeah. We could very much say that's what this is.
Right. And also, there's a difference, and this is a discussion for another show perhaps. There's a difference between albums that you listen to the most and your all-time favorite albums. And what I mean by that, let's say that you were 12 years old and you owned 5 albums. Well, you may have listened to one of those albums 300 times in a year, and that may resonate to one of your most listened to albums in your lifetime, but it was because you were restricted to 5 albums to choose from.
Right.
So we've kind of taken all of that in context, and so these are narrowed down to our personal 10 favorite albums of all time as of this date. And of course, we're humans. It can change. It's probably changed I know it's changed over time for me.
It's definitely. I made this list maybe 15 years ago, and some of the albums stayed on there, but I'd say about half of them are more recent releases that, I think that I would listen to till the end of time.
Awesome. Well, let's get to it.
Okay, I'll start out. How about this one? My number 10. We're going to count them down 10 to 1, and these are in order.
Yep.
All right. Foo Fighters, The Color and the Shape.
Yes. I should have known that.
Came out in 1997. It contains, now, a lot of Foo Fighters fans, there's a consensus on this. Everlong is their greatest song ever.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with that.
Yeah. Me too.
It was their second album, but the first album with the full band.
Right.
And the band incarnations changed over the years, but the core of it, this is where it began. Great hits on that one: Everlong, Monkey Wrench, My Hero, Walking After You. But then some of the deep cuts that were my favorite is Hey Johnny Park.
Yeah.
Loved that one. And February Stars. That's an epic song. Yeah,
and I was going to say regarding Foo Fighters, that was probably the album where I really started paying attention to Dave Grohl as far as being a really serious musician. And no offense to Nirvana, retrospect, I probably like them more than I did at the time when they were out. The first Foo Fighters record was good. Nothing wrong with it at all. I really like it, actually.
Yeah.
But that one, it had a big step up as far as production quality, as far as playing, musicianship, the songwriting. And I agree. I think it's a wonderful record. It didn't make my top 10, but it is definitely worthy.
Absolutely, yes. All right, so what's your 10?
All right, number 10 for me, and this is funny because I covered this on my all-time favorite artist show. He is my all-time favorite artist of all time, and it's Glen Campbell. This album squeezes in there. It's funny because Glen made 60 studio albums in his career. 60.
That's a lot.
Yeah, recorded over 600 songs. But, a lot of his records and recordings, especially early on, he was spitting them out, 2-3 albums a year. And so, some albums, there's some stuff, when you have 600 songs, you're not going to love 600 songs.
Right.
I love at least 200 of his songs, as I've covered. But Wichita Lineman, as a whole album, I think is one of his best ones ever.
Yes.
And there's so many great songs on there. Wichita Lineman, he covers Sitting on the Dock of the Bay on that, which he does an excellent version of that. There's a song on there called That's Not Home, which is just a beautiful ballad. It sounds like he's in the room with you singing. So that would be my number 10 favorite album of all time, Glen Campbell and Wichita Lineman.
Very nice. All right, so for my number 9, I'm going to go back to 1985. Songs from the Big Chair by Tears for Fears.
I did not see that coming.
Did not see that one, huh?
Did not see that coming.
Man, what a great album. Okay, so side 1 consists of Shout, The Working Hour, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and Mother's Talk.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a solid side right there. But
yes, sir.
Probably my favorite thing about this album is side 2, how it just flows from one to the other.
Right.
Head Over Heels was obviously another hit by them.
Yep.
but I cannot listen to that song without hearing "I Believe," "Broken," then "Head Over Heels."
It automatically clicks in your brain as soon as it ends.
Yeah.
The next one starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Listen follows that. You
Yeah.
know, there's a crowd noise. It fades out right into listen.
Right into listen.
So, yeah, I can't listen to Head Over Heels unless I'm hearing the whole side of that album.
Tears for Fears, very underrated band. I mean, I love all their records.
Yeah.
And I can't disagree with that selection at all. I love it. Am I ready?
You're ready. Let's go. What's your number 9?
Oddly enough, mine's from the exact same era. Now, this is one that we're going to majorly disagree on.
Uh-oh.
I can't help it. I love her. I've actually sent tweets to her a few times, and she's always big-time me. She's never responded. But that's okay. I still love her anyway. Anita Baker, Rapture, is one of my favorite records of all time. I absolutely adore it. Everything about it. All the songwriting, her voice, I think, is incredible. Once again, it's one of those records for me that I can put on. I can listen to it regardless of the mood I'm in, and it always brings me up. It always makes me feel better, and it's a record that I've never stopped going back to since way back in 1986. I love it. Of course, it had "Sweet Love" on there. "Caught Up in the Rapture" is one of my favorite songs of all time. But it's a classic from start to finish in my mind, and it's my number 9 favorite record of all time.
I wasn't expecting that to be on your 10, and I will preface what you said that I would disagree with it. I don't deny the talent and the songwriting ability. Her vocal style, it's just something that I'm not into. There's something about it that I can't put my finger on. I'm not into it. So
no worries.
But I don't deny that it's good stuff.
As our good friend Danny Vaughn once said, that's why they make red shoes and brown shoes.
That's right. All right, so we're moving on to number 8. My number 8 pick is from 1991, Toad the Wet Sprocket, "Fear."
Wow.
Yes, I love that album. Of course, that was kind of their commercial breakthrough with "All I Want" and "Walk on the Ocean."
Yeah.
But every song on there I just love. And probably my favorite, among my favorite Toad the Wet Sprocket songs is "Pray Your Gods." I really love that song. Others on there, "Before You Were Born" and "Hold Her Down."
I love "Hold Her Down."
Yeah, that's a great
horrible subject matter.
It is, but it comes from the side of anti-abuse towards women.
Of course, yes.
But it's one of those shocking kind of songs that
absolutely
really helps you wrap your head around what the actual issue is.
No doubt about it.
So yeah, Toad the Wet Sprocket, "Fear," I can listen to beginning to end 1,000 times in a week, and I just love it. What's your number 8?
Number 8 for me is from 1998. When this record came out, I couldn't get enough of it. I've never gotten over it. It's one of these bands that's kind of polarizing as far as what people think about them. It was really not a band at all. It was mainly one guy, and that would be Greg Alexander, and the band is New Radicals. Maybe you've been brainwashed too. I just love everything about it. It's got a nice pop sensibility. He's got a very unique voice. I really like the way he stacks his vocals. The songwriting, I think, is, the more you hear it, the more clever you think it is. Of course, it had the big hit on it, "You Get What You Give." But there's a lot of moments that remind me of things like Hall & Oates. There's one song, the title track on there, is just a vibe. I call it a vibe song. It's just got a lot of guitar. I'm sorry. It is a guitar drum groove, real atmospheric keyboards, and he just makes a bunch of weird sounds with his voice. But it's cool. And there's another song on there, "I Hope I Didn't Give Away the Ending." Just really unique writing style from a very talented guy. Of course, it was short-lived. Not long after the release, he announced that he was leaving the music business, which was kind of strange.
Yeah.
But then he bounced back pretty fast and wrote "Game of Love," which was recorded by Santana with, I believe it was Michelle Branch on vocals. So Greg Alexander and New Radicals, that's my number 8 pick.
Yeah, I love "You Get What You Give." That's actually probably going to make my top 10 list of songs of all time.
Is that right?
I think it would.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, you know, it's crazy. One day, you know, you get bored sometimes and you go to YouTube and you're reading comments and video sections and stuff. And I could not believe when I pulled that video up the amount of people that said that song saved their life.
Yeah.
Literally saved their life. And I mean, what is more powerful than that?
I can believe it. Absolutely. All right. So moving on to my number 7 pick. This one came out in 2005.
Okay.
Love this album from beginning to end. There's actually some embedded memories of this album when I was listening to it that I won't get into right now, but Death Cab for Cutie, Plans. Yeah, that's one that you're not as familiar with.
Not as familiar with that one. Yeah. Now you've played me some stuff, and I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
And I do like the vibe of the band a lot.
That's what I like about them. I like their lyrical content. I love the pictures that they paint with the mood of the music. You may be familiar with Soul Meets Body, Crooked Teeth. Those songs were actually hits on the radio.
Yes, I do remember those songs, actually. Yeah.
But some of others are my favorites. Actually, I Will Follow You Into the Dark wasn't actually a hit, but it was their biggest selling single of all time in the group's history. I think it was the subject matter. It was about, I mean, it was quite an in-depth look into a relationship and, you know, how devoted you can become to somebody. But I think a lot of couples probably connected with that one.
Yeah.
But I think I played you before Summer Skin from this album. I love the bass line in that. It's a very bass line centric song.
Yeah.
And I love the journey it takes.
It's great.
Then probably in my top 5 Death Cab songs of all time is Brothers on a Hotel Bed. And this song is about growing old with someone you love and, you know, kind of looking back on, you know, how your journey in the relationship and how you can kind of get stuck in a rut, you know, there towards the end, where and that's what Brothers on a Hotel Bed comes from. It's like that's how you sleep at night, you know. It's like it's not like in the beginning when there was the passion. So, Death Cab for Cutie, Plans.
Nice.
Love how they paint a picture with their lyrics and their music. So that's my number 7.
All right. Well, my number 7 is one that's guaranteed to be on your list. I'm going to go with certainly an album I've listened to so many times. I do think that it's wonderful throughout. The vocalist is fantastic. The songwriting's fantastic. I've never grown tired of this album. In fact, I may listen to it once this episode's over. ANGIE APARO, The American. It just came out at one of those moments when it just literally swept me off my feet. I just absolutely adore the songwriting. You know, we both got to know him. He's a great guy. You know him better than me. But I really like him as a human being. And I just think he has a lot to say lyrically. He has I hear a lot of influences in his writing, everything from Neil Young to Elton John. And I just think that he gets it. You know, as far as singing songwriting goes, go to an ANGIE APARO show and you'll be schooled. He's going to show you how it's done, how the big boys do it. And
exactly right.
I'm sure you have more to say about it, so I'll step out.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'll hear more about it later. So just go on to your number 6.
It is on my list. Yes. I won't reveal where it lands, but yeah it's coming. So
all right.
My number 6 then. This is from 1987. Yeah, I was 16 years old then in high school, and when this came out, and I remember just seeing the video for the first time on MTV. It just seems so odd to me, but I loved the sounds. I loved the grandioseness of their music. It was Depeche Mode.
Wow.
Music for the masses.
Love Depeche Mode.
One of my all-time favorite songs, Never Let Me Down Again.
Great.
An excellent song.
Epic.
And it was actually a little bit of a hit for them.
Yeah.
And then Strange Love is from that album, which was a #1 club hit for weeks on end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big influence in the dance world. Other favorites of mine on there are The Things You Said. I love it's so airy. It's so smooth. Behind the Wheel was a great one too, and I actually like more the remix of that, where they did a remake of the song Route 66.
Right.
Get your kicks on Route 66.
Yeah.
And they kind of mix it together with their song
It's
Behind
done very
the Wheel.
well.
Yeah, very, very well.
Yeah.
Nothing is another song on there I love a lot. So yeah, I remember road tripping with this across the southwestern United States with my friend from high school. Shout out to Todd.
Todd.
We actually drove all the way to the Grand Canyon and back, and this was one of our, one of the staples that we listened to over and over on that trip. So
nice.
I was taking a ride with my best friend at the time. So I got
that's how you make memories.
That's
right
probably
there.
why it's just ingrained in my brain. So, but yeah, love that album beginning to end.
Nice.
Number 6. What's your 6?
Number 6 for me is this is a dark horse right here, and a lot of people won't even know anything about this band, but it is seriously one of my favorite albums of all time, and I am talking about that Michael Bolton. The band was called Blackjack. It was a short-lived project in '79 and '80. They made 2 records, and Blackjack was interesting because every member in the band after Blackjack went on to bigger and brighter and greater things. You had Michael Bolton, of course, who became, known as the guy who could seduce housewives over 40 all over the world. It's good work if you can get it, I guess.
Yeah.
Bruce Kulick.
I hear it pays well.
Yeah. Lots of benefits on that job.
Yes.
Bruce Kulick, of course, became the lead guitar player of Kiss just a short 5 years later after Blackjack disbanded. He also is the current guitar player for Grand Funk Railroad, and I know Bruce a little bit. He's a good guy, good man. Jimmy Haslip, world-renowned bass player. He played on the aforementioned Anita Baker record, by the way. Played on the Yellow Jackets. He was a member of that jazz band. Great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Played with Donald Fagen. Has done all kinds of studio work. And the drummer, Sandy Gennaro, went on to play with Joan Jett, Pat Travers. So they all were, they were obviously a very talented group. In 1980, they released this record right here, which is Worlds Apart. And it is literally one of my favorite records of all time. I'll see here, my late great mom got...
Yeah, actually Michael Bolton's signature there, huh?
That's right. To me, personalized. My late great mom made that happen. She knew somebody who knew him. And then Bruce Kulick, I've met him a couple of times. Like I said, a very kind man. He signed this. He gave me one of his Kiss guitar picks. So I got to get the other 2 guys to sign it, and it'll be complete. But Blackjack is really great. It's very much hard rock in the style of Foreigner, Rainbow, Journey. That AOR sound from the early 80s, and definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, it's very cool, very cool. So where are we now? Number 5,
Number
right?
5, yep.
My 5 pick was also from 1987, like my number 6 pick. It's Sting, Nothing Like the Sun.
Wow.
Now this album is the reason that I started to appreciate the world of jazz more, because he incorporated so many jazz elements into this album.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you may remember the hits that you would remember. We'll Be Together, Be Still My Beating Heart.
Love it.
Englishman in New York. Now that's where the jazz starts to creep in.
Totally.
That's a very jazzy song.
Sure.
Fragile, obviously one of my favorites. It's a great one.
Great message too.
Yes. In fact, you remember, I don't know if you've seen the documentary where he was going to do the private concert on September 11th, 2001.
Yes, I've seen that.
They made the decision that they were going to do that song, Fragile, and then stop. But they ultimately decided to do the whole concert.
Yeah.
But that was the tribute to that day, and it was perfect.
It's funny because when I hear that song, I think of that.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And of course, making my top 10 favorite songs list of all time, most definitely would be Little Wing, his version of it. Just a sweeping, grand version of it, and that guitar solo, that sax solo.
I love everything about it.
Yeah, I love it. The whole album, beginning to end, is fantastic. Nothing Like the Sun, Sting.
That's a great choice. My number 5 is, you could say that this one's been overplayed a little bit, but I still enjoy it for the most part. And when you listen to it in its entirety and you absorb it as an entire musical piece, you realize what crap is out there at the moment. And that would be Journey's Escape. I know we've all heard Don't Stop Believing Enough for One Lifetime. I still like the song, personally. But there's so many great moments on there. Stone in Love, Who's Crying Now, Keep on Running, Still They Ride, Escape, Dead or Alive, Lay It Down. I just know the record, which I had those songs flip-flop when I just said that. But I do know the songs
no one's going to hold it against you.
Mother, Father is just an epic classical influence piece that's just beautiful. And, of course, it ends with Open Arms. I think it is just a really great record, very pivotal in their career. The first one that had Jonathan Cain on board after he had departed from the Babies. And he brought so much to the table as a songwriter. And, quite frankly, I think it holds up nicely to this very day. Neil Sean's one of my favorite guitar players. I've met him. He's another really nice guy. Journey's Escape.
Very nice.
Number 5.
So we have whittled our way down to number 4. Getting down to the nitty-gritty now.
Yes, we are.
All right, so my pick is from 2003. It's Howie Day, Stop All the World Now.
Wow.
Yeah. Now
I remember when you were really into that record.
Oh, yeah, and I still am. Every time I go back and listen to it, it's amazing.
It really is a good record. You turned me on to that, and I enjoy it.
Yeah. He had a major hit that kind of covered all the charts, the pop chart, the AC chart. It was called Collide.
Yes.
That was a big hit for him. Had a kind of a minor hit with a song called She Says, but my favorites are the deep cuts, of course. Numbness for Sound. I love Numbness for Sound because it just deals with depression and I think it does it really well. And Goosebumps. Come Lay Down, though, it's probably my favorite song. It's the one that ends the record, and it's one of those, slow build, and then it's just mega huge, and I love it. When I drove to Utah, I drove.
Why did you go to Utah?
Well, it was a kind of a vacation.
Oh, okay.
I went to I drove across Colorado and all that.
Salt Lake City. Did you go to Salt Lake City?
Did not go to Salt Lake City. Just went to Moab, and that's where the
nothing against Utah, by the way.
That's where the Arches Park is. So you drive up this mountainside.
Beautiful.
And it's real steep off the side of the road, and that Come Lay Down was like the perfect song. I cranked it while I was driving up that hillside.
Very nice.
Yeah, because it says "Don't look down" over and over in it. It was awesome. So yes, Howie Day, Stop All the World Now. It was on my list 15 years ago. It's still there at number 4.
Nice. All right, my number 4 is probably another one of those bands that have some of you scratching your head. Who? For me, it's one of those groups I will never understand how they weren't just massive. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. There's no justice in the music world sometimes. And I'm talking about the second album by Jellyfish.
Yes.
Spilt Milk. I just think it is a pop masterpiece. Everybody together, masterpiece. That's the word. It really is. They incorporate so many things from Queen, the Beatles, of course, Badfinger, Supertramp. So many elements of power pop, and they just put on a clinic on how to write great pop songs. The song New Mistake is possibly my favorite song ever. It's definitely way up there in my top 5. If you've never heard that song, go look it up and just listen to the brilliance of it, the mix, everything about it. Ghost at number 1 is really cool. Glutton of Sympathy is another one of my favorite songs. It's just great.
If you're going to listen to that one, you may as well listen to their debut album as well, because honestly, that's my favorite Jellyfish album. It was called
And it's
Belly
great,
Button.
too.
Yeah.
And you got me into Jellyfish. You were the first person to get me into them. We saw them open for the Black Rose.
That's correct,
Right.
yeah, and they did a great job.
They did.
The Jellyfish Belly Button was one of those that went into my CD player in my car and never left it for 2 months. It's that's all I listened to for 2 months straight. So.
Yeah, I prefer Spilt Milk simply because it's got a little bit more of an edge to it.
Yeah, and I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what gives it the edge for me.
All right. So we're ready to move on to number 3 now.
Number 3.
Speaking of curveballs, you probably don't even know this band at all.
Okay.
I may have mentioned it, though. M83.
Heard of them.
You have heard of them. Yes. Saturdays Equals Youth, that came out in 2008. This is my definitive Rainy Day album.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What year did it come out? 08?
2008.
2008,
yeah.
Okay.
And they're a French electronic band. But this one was a little different from their previous releases. It had a lot more melody They added some female vocals. It's just fantastic beginning to end. My favorite song off of it is We Own the Sky. It's just this sweeping song that is... in fact, I made a video of the trip to Utah, and I used that as the background song.
Cool.
Kim and Jesse is kind of harkens back to a Psychedelic Furs kind of sound.
Nice.
So they went a little retro on this album. Up is another one of my favorites. But yes, this rainy day, dark day, middle of the night, this is the album. M83, Saturdays Equals Youth. It's my number 3.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
My number 3 is probably not much of a surprise as far as the band go. From here on out, there's no surprises with me. But I'm going to go with the Electric Light Orchestra and A New World Record. A New World Record was such a great moment in music history for me. So many, just, you talk about a perfect album with the perfect song sequence, and I just think that albums in the 70s, they really spent a lot of time trying to do that. A lot of records just, songs flow from one to another. But of course it had Living Thing was on there. Of course Do Ya is on there. But some of the deeper stuff. There's a song on there that's kind of like a little intro kind of thing called Across the Clouds. And it is so beautiful. It's very Beach Boys-like, very dreamy, lots of cool vocals. And I've always said Jeff Lynne is one of the most underrated musicians of all time. And I just think that he just really struck the right balance of his Beatle-esque influences with his own pop sensibilities, combined with excellent musicianship and playing and the right songs at the right time. So that is my number 3, the Electric Light Orchestra, A New World Record.
That's one thing I love about them. Like, one of my favorite moments is the El Dorado theme going into Can't Get It Out of My Head. Yeah. I love that transition. They were masters at that.
Yes, they really were. They really were.
So we're ready at number 2 now,
Number 2.
Number 2 is an album from 1990 that I've actually mentioned before, with a fantastic album cover, fantastic songs, fantastic mood. Concrete Blonde, Bloodletting. Yeah, I got fond memories of this album, and I love the darkness of it.
It's a perfect 10, man.
It really is.
It's a perfect 10. I agree with that.
Most people would have heard Joey because that was their radio hit. It actually made the pop chart. But other songs, Caroline, Lullaby.
Love Caroline.
Lullaby is one of my favorites. The Beast. Now, what I love about The Beast is it's one of the few songs that is just really hard driving.
Yeah.
It's got an edge to it.
The Sky's a Poisonous Mushroom.
The Sky's a Poisonous Garden. That's a great one too. That's got a little edge to it. It's got a little.
I was testing him.
Yeah, that one's got a little kick to it as
does,
well. Yeah. And it seems like they didn't call it a concept album, but it seems very much like it is, because track 1 is, of course, the Bloodletting vampire song, and it's about vampires, and you could almost apply a vampire theme to
theme.
Almost all of the songs.
It's the theme of the album.
Yeah, like the darkening of the light, and where they're dancing in the garden. I mean, yeah, it sounds like that's straight out of a soundtrack to a vampire movie. So. But I love the darkness of it. It's my number 2.
Wow.
Bloodletting by Concrete Blonde.
Can't go wrong with that. All right, my number 2 is an album. It's funny. There's other albums in their catalog that I've listened to more. But when push comes to shove, if I have to say my favorite, once again, I'm restricted to one album by this band. I would pick this one, and this would be Moving Pictures by Rush.
Oh.
It's glorious from the first opening note of Tom Sawyer all the way till Vital Signs fades out.
Yeah.
Everything in between is essential listening, in my opinion. You talk about a band hitting on all cylinders at the right time, where they had refined all the things that they had done, and actually included a little bit more of a modern direction as well. If you listen to the song Vital Signs, it's very much like the Police. Yeah. And they were really into that at the time. And, they had one long song on there, The Camera, but most of the songs were more concise and more straightforward. Red WHICHITA Limelight. These were just radio classics that are still played, thousands of times every year on classic rock radio. And once again, it's a record that I will listen to until the day that I die, which hopefully will be a long time from now.
Yeah, I hope so too.
But I absolutely adore it, and it's my number 2 pick.
Yeah. Now, you have brought up albums from your number 1 and number 2 favorite artists, Glen Campbell and Rush.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to preface, before I get to my number 1, that I refuse to rank any Pink Floyd songs in my top 10.
Albums.
Did I say songs? Albums, yeah. My top Pink Floyd albums.
Since he brought that up, same thing, same message for me with Cheap Trick.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. So we're on the same page on that.
Yes.
I can't pick a favorite Pink Floyd, so I just won't do it.
I can't pick a favorite Cheap Trick.
I just will not do it. So that's why there's no Pink Floyd in my list.
I get it, man. Yeah. That's funny. I was about to make the same comment about Cheap Trick. So
yeah, there you go. So my number 1 is one that you've already brought up. So no fanfare on this one. ANGIE, APARO, The American from 1999.
Wow.
A lot of the things you've pretty much covered, what I was wanting to say about it. But fantastic beginning to end. It's got a great sound. It's got that organic / electronic sound all throughout the whole thing.
Great production by Master Letic.
Yes, absolutely. Spaceship was kind of the rock radio hit from that. Cry was the song that Faith Hill eventually
had a hit
recorded
with
and covered, and she had a hit with it. Yeah. So, but the original is on The American. If you've heard "Cry" by Faith Hill, go listen to the original, and you will change your mind about it.
It's the real version.
Yeah.
And another thing, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we know Angie personally, and a lot of these songs have real stories behind them.
Yes, they do.
So that makes it even more special for me.
Like Wonderland, the stripped down acoustic guitar in his voice, and that's all it is. I mean,
beautiful.
that was written to his daughter.
Yeah. Memphis City Rain.
Yeah, Memphis City Rain about Martin Luther King and other figures like him that are, that wind up, being assassinated or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah. Third Time Around's a great one. Free Man is one of my favorite songs by him. Is also on
I think
there.
it's his best vocal track ever.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, ANGIE, APARO, The American, that's my number 1.
Wow. No surprise there, and I love it. Like I said, it was my number 7. I knew we would get to it again. That's why I didn't say a whole lot about it in the first round. But all right, well, we're up to my number 1, and my number 1 album of all time has been my number 1 album for a very, very long time. And it's a group that I love. I love them. Even the older I get, the more I love them. I don't know how in the hell they wrote this stuff in their 20s. I really don't. I'm talking about Walter Becker. I'm talking about Donald Fagen. I'm talking about Steely Dan, of course.
Yeah.
And The Royal Scam. That is my favorite album.
It's a great album.
It really is. To me, it was it's weird. As Steely Dan went on, and especially after they made their comeback in the 90s and beyond, there was an element of their 70s records were just encompassed in darkness, kind of like In a Darkened Room.
Yeah.
And I was really drawn to that, and really drawn to this album in particular. I love the album cover, first of all, but all the songs are just so dark and come from a depressing angle almost.
Yeah.
But there's just some brilliant moments. Haitian Divorce is one of my favorite songs of all time. People know, of course, Kid Charlemagne was off that. That was one of the singles. The Fez, that's kind of like the disco groove song that they have. Caves of Altamira, one of my favorite songs of all time. Don't Take Me Alive, it's about somebody who's in a police standoff. It's just, the subject matter. It's just going from 1 minute, it's about drug dealers to, hate in California. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a masterpiece of an album, and I will never be tired of it. And that's why it's my number 1.
Excellent. Well, I love our picks, and
me too.
You can probably see by our picks of favorite albums that Darren and I both come from the same world as far as our musical influences and how we grew up, but we really do have differing taste in some way.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps add to the value of this channel. You're not getting just one opinion from one world. So
exactly.
Yeah. So moving forward, I think things are going to get interesting from now on.
Yeah.
So
this was fun, man. I was looking
looking
forward to this episode, and it was fun.
Thanks for watching this episode of In a Darkened Room. You can find the link to this episode's companion Spotify playlist in the description. Darren and Chris welcome your comments. You can leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. Follow In a Darkened Room on Twitter to receive updates and submit your ideas for what we should discuss in upcoming episodes. Darren and Chris are also on Instagram, so give them a follow there as well. All of these links can be found in the description below. While you're there, be sure to click subscribe and ring the bell.
All right, so it's random topic time, and I think we'll do shuffle play this time around. You cool with that?
I'm totally cool with it.
All
Let's
right,
see what happens.
Open the Spotify playlist. Let's hit shuffle, and
The Wheel of Doom.
here it comes. Looks like Creedence Clearwater Revival. Have you ever seen the rain?
All right.
What do you think of this song?
I love it. I absolutely love the writing on it. I love the darkness of it. I love the mix. I really like the way the drums sound on that.
Yeah.
And I think it was from the album Pendulum, if I'm not mistaken. It's,
not sure.
Yeah. That particular song will sound its best if you seek out the DCC Gold version mastered by Steve Hoffman, one of my friends and a great mastering audio engineer. But overall, I think it's one of their better moments.
Very nice. Yeah, I like it a lot too. I didn't really. I liked CCR, growing up in my younger years, but it was about 2001 or 2002 that I actually really got into them and really started doing a deeper dive into their music.
Interesting, because I have a similar experience with them. I never minded hearing their songs, and then one night, real late, I don't even know what channel, I was channel surfing around, and I came upon a John Fogerty solo, and in my opinion, John Fogerty was CCR.
Yeah.
A solo show, and he opened the show with Born on a Bayou, and it really struck me at that moment what a amazing singer he really is.
Yeah.
And his voice is a once in a lifetime type of voice, and very special.
It's him.
Every
it's
time.
him. Yeah.
And a great singer. And and so that was kind of the moment where I was like, you know what? They're better than I remembered them, or that I've ever given them credit for.
Right, yeah. And Have You Ever Seen the Rain is definitely one of my favorite songs by them.
Same here. All right.
So that wraps it up for this episode.
We're done.
And we'll be back again with another hopefully interesting topic. We'll see you again soon, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Appreciate it.